Hello, my name is Catherine Hemlock from Hemlock Originals. Welcome to this video. I'm going to use the process of me making this wood piece or reclaimed wood quilt pattern, whatever you want to call it, to explain something that's really dear to my heart, and that is the lesson that it's never too late to start again. Or in a long-winded version, just because you haven't done it for years doesn't mean you can't do it again. That is the theme of this video. I like to have a theme for every single piece of art that I make out of wood. Every single one of them has a name, and every single one of them has a message, and that is the message for this wood piece. The name of this wood piece is Julie, and I'll explain more about that later. So back to the theme of it's never too late to start again. I started doing this back in 2020. I lived in a small town, New Carlisle, Indiana, and I had this little small patio workshop where I was starting to make these pieces. During the day, I worked at my computer desk, and in the afternoons, I loved to go and make these pieces. It was a routine that just felt really good together. It was just like you're sitting at a desk for a while and you want to do something physical and active and move around. So this was my way of doing it and being creative. And then about a year later, my now husband moved in with me, and life changed so fast. All of a sudden we were getting married and we were moving, and then we kept moving. And because we were moving so much, I had all of this reclaimed wood that I loved, but we couldn't keep it because we couldn't rationalize moving it, and it ended up all getting burned. And it's like, it makes me want to cry that I let that beautiful wood go because I had worked so hard to clean it and store it and care for it, and then it was just gone. And so once the reclaimed wood was gone and we were moving and I didn't have a workshop, I couldn't get into it again. But I always remembered the feeling that I felt when I was making these pieces. That stayed with me through the years. And I thought about it, and I just kept saying, I really want to get that started again. I really want to do that again. Like, I wonder where I'm going to be able to do this again. So 5 years later, we moved down to Oklahoma, and we got this really nice rental property that we didn't know at the time, but it had a huge workshop in it. And we were like, wow, this is great. We got the workshop up and running, and then there was a woman that had this whole reclaimed wood lot where she had all these different colors and all these different textures. And so we went and bought all of the wood, and I was like, wow, this is actually happening. And I wasn't, afraid to get started again. Like, oh, well, what if I'll be bad at it again? Or what if I don't like it? It was all just really exciting. And I could have gotten in my head of, oh, well, because I haven't done it for 5 years, maybe I shouldn't do it again. Or maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe this art isn't for me. Maybe I should explore something else, do something new. But it wasn't that feeling. And I think that a lot of people can get in their heads about things like, oh, well, because I haven't drawn or painted or done XYZ in so many years, I don't even know how to get started again, or where do I start, or what do I do, or how do I make it work? Obviously, for me, it was having the location to do these things. That's really important when it comes to a craft. Having a workshop that you can return to every single time, and your tools are there, and your woods are there, and your space is there, and you can just get it done. Every time you have to do a craft where it requires you to put up a workstation and then take it down and then put it back up, it kills the creative flow. And because I didn't have that for so many years, I just didn't feel like comfortable pursuing it. If you want to get back into some sort of art again, find a space to do it. And if you don't have the space to do it, set the intention that you will find a space to do it, because it's something that you care about and something that makes you feel good and you want to do it. Maybe life took you away from it temporarily because of various different reasons. Like my life took me away from it, but you can come back to it, and I came back to it, and I'm really grateful that I did. So, like I said, just because it has been years doesn't mean you can't start again. Anyways, this is the first time I really recorded the process of me making a wood piece, and it's been several years since I've made one. I've made several smaller ones in the past, and I'll show pictures of them here. So the sizes of these wood pieces are basically like the corner of what this one's going to be. This one is huge. It's going to be 36 inches, close to 36 inches squared. It's going to be the biggest wood piece I have ever made. Because it had been years since I did it, when I was thinking about getting back into making wood pieces again, I said, I don't want to start small again. I don't want to make small pieces again. I want to go big. And so that is how this design came to be. If you're curious about why I do quilt style wood art specifically, I was naturally drawn to it because my grandmother was a master quilter. She was an award-winning quilt maker. She absolutely loved it, and she taught me how to make quilts when I was young. We worked together on a few different quilts, and I just loved what she created with them. It was like a lifelong lasting thing that she could make, and it was a work of art. It was beautiful what she could do. And although she taught me how to quilt and how to sew, I didn't actually end up being that good at it. I'm not entirely a natural at it. To be honest, sewing machines kind of stress me out, like with the thread and the needle, and when things get tangled, and when you don't have a straight line, it's like really problematic. And for some reason, I was drawn to doing woodworking and working with reclaimed wood specifically because there's so many colors and textures and variation in reclaimed wood. I thought that it would look really nice in a quilt pattern. This was 5 years ago when I came up with the idea. And to be honest, I have no idea why or how I actually connected the two together. I just remember being like, oh, I want a scroll saw and I want to use reclaimed wood and I want to make this. It's all a bit hazy into how it actually came into my life, but it's a way of art that I really fell in love with because I love working with wood. Wood is such a special material to me. I love trees, and so to be able to use wood in a responsible way that makes it into lifelong art that can last for, this could last for centuries, this piece of art that I've made. And this wood that's already on the piece has been around for probably years before it, and the tree for years before that. So it's like generations of a tree all put together to last forever. Reclaimed wood is so beautiful in its variety and its texture. And I love that I don't have to be really that straight with it. Yeah, I could have, done a laser cutter, or I've seen the Amish do it where they can get these completely straight lines and get these shapes absolutely perfect. That's never my goal with these wood pieces. I like to have straight lines and I like it to look good and I like it to all fit together like it's planned. But I like the fact that my pieces end up having really aesthetic gaps because I feel like it matches the imperfection of the wood that I'm using. If it was all just really straight line with imperfect wood, it just, to me, wouldn't make sense. I just want to use imperfect with imperfect. So that's a little bit of history into why I do quilt patterns specifically, why I use reclaimed wood. Back to the big size of this piece, I wanted to make something that was bigger than I've ever made before because I thought it would look epic. Big things look really epic and they just draw your eyes in and you just want to stare at it and you just want to look at every detail of it. I love giant art. So I was like, I want to make something really big. And I was looking in a quilting book that I got from my grandmother's memorial service about quilt patterns. And when I opened the book, the first picture I saw was the Lone Star Quilt. I was like, wow, this quilt is great. I want to do this. This looks really inspiring. And if you're familiar with the quilting world, the Lone Star Quilt is a very popular design. It's one of the most famous quilt patterns in American textile history. Its story actually blends European design and early American craft traditions, Western expansion, and Native American culture. So it's just been around for a very long time and has moved meaning over time. So it started in the 1700s, and it's been called different stuff like Star of Bethlehem and Morning Star. Why it became the Lone Star specifically is because it became really common after the Texas Revolution in 1836, when Texas adopted a flag featuring a single star. And because the quilt had one dominant star, people in Texas began referring to the pattern as the Lone Star. From there, the name spread across the South and the West. So this Lone Star quilt pattern is really popular in the South and the Western territories. Because quilting was so popular of an art back in the day, quilts with specifically the Lone Star on them became gifts to people, wedding gifts and heirlooms, which is why I said that I really like the idea of the quilts in the wood and combining them, because just like quilts last a lifetime and can be passed on for generations if they're taken care of, so can a piece of art like this. So although, yes, it is a very popular design and a lot of people have done it and I've put my creative spin on it, I feel like I'm putting my own touch on the history of the Lone Star and participating in this hundreds and hundreds of year tradition of using the Lone Star. And to me, this piece and the Lone Star is a rebirth. It is symbolic to my start again into this kind of art, and I just feel like I'm a part of history now, and that's really special to me. Well, the good news, should I give a commentary or should I just leave it artsy? Should I not explain my faults? Is it already recording? Well, the good news is that it fits. The bad news is I have to cut a lot to make it look nice and fit. So there are a lot of things learned, and the phrase of this piece is, just because you haven't done it for years doesn't mean you can't do it again. And I haven't done it for years, and that's why I'm a little rusty, and I've never made a piece this big before, so I've made quite a few mistakes, but I'm just really grateful that it fits in the frame, and then I'll just cut it to match at this point. So it's really coming along. Joshua made this beautiful black frame to suit it, and I think that it really highlights the black pieces in it, and it creates a lot of it creates like a shadow look to it, which I really, really like. But this is where I'm at with it. I had to stop recording because there's so many micro movements of what's happening, and it would have just been way too much wasted footage for me to just explain it to you now. But this is it now. This way of art, I don't know, like when I rewatch the video of me making it, it's not the most exciting process. It's a lot of repetition. I'm cutting, I'm tracing it onto a piece of wood, and I'm cutting it. And it's just the same thing over and over again. I think that repetitive patterns like that are relaxing, because like in the repetition, your mind can clear and you're just so focused on what you're doing and keeping in line with the assembly that your mind is just free to be in that moment creating. But because it's not the most interesting process to watch, I thought that it would be really valuable to share my process with you and for you to see how I do this and how I cut out every single little piece and how I make it happen. I like to name my pieces specific names and have messages with them because they are one of one. I'm not going to make this specific design again. This is it. This is the one attempt I had at it, and this is just what it is. This is Julie. It is a living being, and it has its own look, and it's impossible to create it again. I want it to be one of one, and she is one of one. She is 16.5 pounds, and she is just an art child that I've created and Joshua's created with me. I like that each piece that I make is original because I'm not doing this to repeat make things. There's nothing wrong with creating the same thing over and over again for the sake that, well, because one person likes it, then someone else is going to get it. There's nothing wrong with that way of art. This is just the way that I like to do it because, especially with reclaimed wood, it's all so different. I couldn't make it exactly the same again if I wanted to because each of the pieces are unique within the reclaimed wood. Well, here it is. Julie is complete. Last piece going in. Well, this piece is named Julie after my mother because I love her dearly and because she's always supported me. However, I would not have been able to finish this without Joshua. Joshua helped me finish every single inner piece because he is a wizard on the miter saw and the bandsaw. So thank you, Joshua. Woo! So here she is. Here is Julie in all of her glory. Finished, hung up, looking very elegant, looking like it just draws your eyes in. When you're standing in the room with Julie, you just feel like, whoa, it just is empowering and you just want to stare at it and look at every little crooked detail, but overall shape and how the colors play together. It's very Americana in my opinion with the red, white, and blue, and I just love it. I love the way that she came out, and I just think she would just be really beautiful in someone's home that would love her just as much as I love her. So thank you for watching. I hope that you found this video and my message helpful for wherever you are in your creative journey. And once again, for the final time, it's never too late to start again.